Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful empowered harmonizers. And we're zooming in and focusing in a little bit more in depth in terms of understanding how a covert narcissist overpowers others. How do they really get a subtle form of control? How do they get one over? How do they disempower others? When we talk about a covert narcissist, we're talking about someone who really underneath it all, in a very covert or unseen manner, has a pathological sense of self-importance to the point where they disempower or disallow others. They're able to basically trivialize others' needs through one of their pathologies, which is a lack of empathy. So empathy, once again, is the ability to recognize, embrace, and hear out and validate the needs, wishes, desires of another. And so a covert narcissist, because they always want to be the alpha male, the alpha female, the one in control, the one in charge, the one with a leg up, a shoe up, a foot up, whatever it is, they want to have the superior stance to a significant other or a scapegoat, someone who they have targeted or necessitated in a relationship dynamic as one of supply, or the one who is disempowered in the relationship. And yet this can be a very subtle form of give or take, which means it's not always a disempowered stance, but there's a chronic undergirding sense of a lack of empathy, particularly that of disempowering you or not hearing out your true needs, basically making them trivial. I would like to work. I would like to have this job. I have this need to go out as a date night. I have this need to be listened to here. I need responsibility and accountability here. I need for you to do ABC, XYZ, PDQ, whatever it is. And they tend to trivialize or really not follow through or not validate and support the significant other in this. They sort of let it go. They roll it off their back. They give you the silent treatment. It never gets done. It never gets listened to. It is never satisfied. So this need goes unfulfilled in the other in the relationship. So someone who might be a significant other, such as a daughter, a son, a wife, a husband. And when this occurs, when there's a lack of empathy and a pathological sense of self-importance within this individual, basically they downplay or undermine the needs of others. To downplay means to trivialize or to make as if they're superfluous, unimportant, does not matter, don't give heed to, don't give recognition to, don't give validation. So it gets swept under the rug, swept off the rug, swept off the roof, whatever it is, it goes unattended to, basically out of their focus. And what we focus on grows. So if they don't focus on you, your needs, it does not grow. It withers away like a wilted piece of lettuce on a hot flame. It basically disintegrates or extinguishes itself. Its life energy is lost. And it basically goes like a blown out candle. It gets snuffed out. And if what you don't give attention to, give oxygen to, give airing space to, becomes like a dirty laundry. It begins to stink up the relationship. It begins to go on, and then undermining you and undermining your happiness. To undermine means to sabotage. Sabotage from the Greek word sabat, which means to muddle, befuddle, or to make unclear. It was an old military team, which means to basically, mess up the signals, the airwaves of. So your own inner airwaves, basically your inner communication as well as your communication in the relationship, the airwaves become scrambled. They are not able to be heated and follow up. So then your positive orderly direction, what I call pod thinking, pod feeling, pod becoming, becomes scrambled. The wires become crossed. You now attend to their needs rather than your own. And this scrambling of wires is like the wiring in your brain. As we know, as you've listened, if you followed me, you understand that the inner programming, your inner I am, how you believe about yourself, your sense of faith, your sense of self-belief, which really creates a law of lid in your life, which basically means how far you go, how good you feel about yourself, your self-esteem. Basically, there's the law of the lid. If you have low faith in yourself, if your crosshairs are chaotic, if your wiring is basically downgraded or sabotaged or befuddled or rerouted, and you're always having to attend to the needs of a narcissist, which becomes inbred in the relationship, inbred in families, inbred in communities, in generations, in societies. Basically, it means that you then are living by a law of the lid, which means you feel in your heart or your belief or even in your thinking that you're only going to get so far. You're only going to, be able to communicate your needs so much. They get degraded, they get extinguished, they become wilted. So then eventually in the relationship, you don't know what your needs are. You don't know, you're not able to pursue your happiness. You're always living a little unhappy, a little under the emotional weather. Feeling as if your interests aren't validated. You're always having to yell. And then this, you're always having to go out of your way to sort of, say something's wrong here, but I can't quite put a finger on it. And this really, they end up then controlling others through a subtle form of anger, through upset, through this is now an issue. So someone has then made you sort of angry, upset, dissatisfied, discontented, this person has power over you. If someone is chronically making you angry, you are then in a reactive state. When you are in a reactive state, constantly angry, this person then has control over you. They have then basically like the towers of a radio control for an airplane, they're telling you where to go, when to stop, when to take off, when to, come in. And so this becomes very disempowering. If someone has made you angry, you are in a reactive state, and then you have to basically, as if you've been with me for a while, you understand that to become disempowered means you're having to become a counterforce to their force. You are becoming a reactionary dynamic. You are becoming a counterforce to their force. So it's kind of like right now it is the U.S. Open. And if you look at Serena Williams, she packs a major serve. She packs a good return. And so if you look at the game of tennis, really it's, one becomes a force to the other's counterforce. You're in a match. You're in a set. You win one, you lose one. And so when we look at the dynamic in this relationship, in the covert narcissist, they will make you suddenly and then growing more angry because of a resistance, because of their lack of response in the relationship, because of their lack of validating you, because they're able to sort of give you the yes ma'am, yes sir, but not follow up. Yes, I will get to that. Yes, I will. And then they never follow through. And then this makes you then increasingly angry, and then you're in a reactive state or a quiet anger where you're then keeping a dissatisfaction or an upset, a displeasure in your mind. And then, you've got then the silent treatment, the stonewalling. Things just, and then there's a sense of giving up, a sense of defeat. And so really, if you're in a defeated state, you're not really empowered, you're not really energized, you're not really happy. You are defeated. You are the victim, you are then the loser. So you become a counterforce to their force. So yes, we use a lot of analogies here because I want you to understand energetically what is happening in the relationship and why there is the upset and why there is the covert manipulation. People don't understand oftentimes that, to make others angry is a way to manipulate. If you are outraging somebody, sabotaging them, emotionally manipulative, neglectful, or spiteful, giving criticism or sort of a quiet criticism, meaning that they don't give you what you need. So it's like a quiet criticism. It's basically saying you're not worth listening to, you're not worth following up on, you're not worth my time, and then so it's sort of a disrespect by lack of attention, a disrespect through lack of recognition, a disrespect through lack of attendance to. And some people, they might be sick, they might not be able to respond because they might have cancer, they might have a neurological disease, they might have dementia, they might have these, organic health issues which cause them to not be able to respond or reply, in which case you can't be angry with them because they're physically not able. They're physically not able to respond. They're not able to follow through. They're not able to make the bed because they're sick. So you can't really be angry with someone who is sick. You might be disappointed or depressed, but you really can't be angry at them. You can't feel like this person's not following up with me. They're not listening to my needs because, they're not able to. So to be angry at someone who is sick is to really, you need to really evaluate that. But we're talking about someone who has the capability and ability, but they just choose not to. It is in the choice, really within the confines of their own skin, their own mindset, their own thought process, that they basically are like, this is how I manipulate, this is how I maintain my dominance in the relationship, is I say one thing and do another. Or I invalidate, I ignore, I take care of only my needs, and I have a lack of empathy towards another. So it is this dynamic that then oftentimes overpowers others and manipulates others through this quiet or subtle chronic anger. And once again, if someone angers you, gets you upset, has you teed off, pissed off, blowing up, then this person has control. Yes, there is legitimate anger. M. Scott Peck, The Road Less Traveled, and one's ability to lie to oneself, he feels, really is the root of all mental illness. And so if you're living in denial, thinking that this person is going to change, that eventually they're going to heed your beck and call, they're going to eventually turn things around, and you've tried and tried and tried again, and you're putting your faith in this, it's to basically, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. You're setting yourself up for failure. You're setting yourself up for depression. You're setting yourself up for eventually a feeling of regret and loss and a lack mentality. And so if you're staying in this stuck manner, sort of ruminating, just sort of, these intrusive thoughts, I know I should be doing something different, but I'm not. So you're on like the tip of the iceberg, becoming somewhat conscious of the fact that this person is flaking off. They're not following through, but you're basically, explaining to yourself, and you're giving yourself the self-talk and the self-discussion that, I don't deserve better. You're right, I am less than. I can never lead the good life. And then so you're living in this lower energy, excuse me, and you're living in this lower thought pattern, excuse me, and then basically you're saying, I will never have what is mine. I will never have the good life. I will never be happily engaged. I will never be happily married. And so it's to say, excuse me, that, you have basically relegated your life to this disempowered state. And so you allow yourself then to be chronically manipulated. And you never then speak up. So the answer then is to be able to, excuse me, I have a cough, I'm coming over this cold here. You're basically then saying that you're communicating to yourself that I don't have what it takes to be able to speak up and confront this or work through this within. I'm not able to confront them and say, you know what, this isn't fair. This isn't right. You're not able to meet it head on. You're always, the win if you're able to look at a win-lose, you're basically relegating yourself to the victim role. You're basically saying, I don't have what it takes to stand up to this person. Or really, underneath it all, you don't have what it takes to stand up within yourself. So you really have to then, the healing message for today's content is to say, if you don't stand up for yourself within yourself, if you don't have that practice within, if you don't have that ability to confront within, then how can you expect yourself to confront without? So you have to be able to stand up and have that inner dialogue, to have that inner discussion. Maybe it's in the privacy of this video, where you then realize, I need to change, and I need to change within, and I need to basically be able to communicate to myself in 5 to 15 words, I deserve, I need, and what I have is mine. So you need to be able to communicate your needs, because otherwise, if you don't communicate your needs or don't satisfy them, they will go unmet, and then you're living in this lack consciousness. You're living in a feeling like, I'm not quite living the life that I want. I'm not quite getting the income that I deserve. I'm not quite getting the smiles that I want. I'm not getting the affection that I deserve. I'm not having the experience in life that I want. I'm not having the exercise. I'm not having the fitness. I'm not having the health. I'm not having the clarity of mind. I'm not having the clarity of feeling. I'm living in a fogged state. I'm living in a unhappy state. I'm not thinking clearly. I'm not thinking enough. I'm not communicating. I'm not going where I want in my life. Excuse me. So, it is really realizing that if this then, the basic issue is that this problem has not been created overnight. This might have been created over years in the making. And if this has then gotten you angry, it's to realize that this person then has power over you. So you have to acknowledge this, become aware of what manipulation is and how this has made you angry. And how it is to understand that when someone has made you angry, whether it's someone who's, bypassing you in line, excuse me, whether someone is cutting you off in traffic, whether this is your spouse, your fiance, your sibling, it is to understand that this is where the disempowering takes place. So you need to realize that getting a lid on your anger and releasing the anger altogether is important for you to become empowered. Because then you've got that internal locus of control. There's nothing outside of you that then is controlling you, because that is disempowered. If someone outside of you is making you upset, unhappy, uncomfortable, disgusted, that person is the one in control. That person is pulling your strings. That person is the one who is, pulling you like a puppet. And so it's important to realize the lesson, which is external versus internal locus of control. External versus internal empowerment. External versus internal manipulation or leverage over yourself. So to have leverage over yourself is like a lever. It's like it's like being able to open up a can. That is what we call leverage. It's having power. The edge is sharper than the can itself, so it's able to, pry it open. The edge is sharper. It's able to cut through that material. The material is not thicker than the sharpness of the edge. And so empowerment in this situation means to release the anger, not allowing this person to have leverage over you. And then to catch this when it's triggering you, when it's getting you into that mindset or that crying spat, that anger spat, that yelling spat. It's getting you beside yourself. It's causing you to become a person that you don't want to become. And it's to say, acknowledge and validate what is going on within yourself. It's going, wow, this is the stimulus response moment where this person is doing something that upsets me. And I'm going to confront them and say, please stop, this needs to change or else. And then you need to have an ultimatum, or else, I won't do X, Y, Z, or, we're going to have a discussion. We're going to have to change this, or we're going to hire someone who can do this, or etc. You need to have an ultimatum, a decision, a follow through. Otherwise, you're just going to perpetuate the anger. You're going to perpetuate the upset, and then you're basically shrinking out of your responsibility to yourself. So as you know, in healing, you ultimately have to have this rigorous honesty. You can no longer have this, if these are, kept buried or subconscious or unconscious within yourself, then this is what is running your life. So this is where we have to enact the change, which is sort of unearthing these subconscious or unconscious problems that are causing these negative emotions or a negative ruminations or negative triggering. You have to remove the thorn. You have to remove the trigger. And if this person is not open to your needs, then that says a lot. In fact, it's so important, I'll repeat it again. If this person is not open to hearing or validating your needs, that says a lot. It's stating that this person is not capable or is unwilling, unchoosing, or, opting out of this relationship in this way. So, then you need to clearly communicate this with rigorous, brutal honesty to yourself, and then with rigorous, brutal honesty to the other in the relationship. Otherwise, it'll perpetuate, and then you are the one who is really ultimately responsible for the satisfying of your needs in life. This is your, eternal connection to source. This is your true I am. This is your true, where you go from here. This is where you then enact your positive orderly direction thinking. This is your lesson. This is your lesson learned. As we talk about in the book that I'm writing, very important chapter of your recovery journal is lesson learned. You need to be able to have an ongoing connection with yourself and an ongoing connection and communication with this lesson learned. And the more you can awaken or become aware of or sharp to this, become aware of and then constantly review this, then you are not deemed to repeat the failures. You're not deemed to repeat the anger spots. You're not deemed to repeat the triggering of the sadness, the bursts of tears, the bursts of, making yourself embarrassed, not able to hold the job, not able to hold attention because of the pain. The more you can work through this, become aware of, and then get a firm communication about this in full clarity, then the more empowered and then healed you'll be, and then you won't be manipulated in this manner from a covert narcissist. This is your buddy, peace and harmony with you here today. I hope that these videos do help. Please share, please subscribe, and please do donate for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. Peace out. Love you. Have a wonderful day.